Good morning. It's Brenda Meller bringing you back for another slice of social media pie. And guess what, guys? I've got a very, very special VIP with me, Robert Courtney. Hey, Robert, how are you doing today?
I'm awesome. How are you, Brenda?
I'm doing good. Can't complain. It's middle of the week and we got an early morning start to our interview. And I always find, Robert, these interviews actually do really well when they're earlier in the morning, like at 9 o'clock, because what
Yeah.
happens is we get some viewers watching us now as they're getting their day started, kind of like a podcast or listening to us in the background. And then we get viewers from throughout the day. So whether the folks are watching us live or in playback, I think this is going to go really great. So I'm excited to have you in the conversation. We've actually met a few times in person, and I was trying to remember before I joined the call today, how did we originally meet? I feel like I just knew your name online a bunch of times. I kept hearing you coming up, and then I think we finally connected online. Do you remember though?
I do. I came to a social media pie presentation at Terry Bean's networking event, one of his
That's
networking
right.
events.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was the first time I heard you speak, and then made sure I connected with you after.
That's awesome. And it's funny
Yeah,
because it's like you're one of those people I knew your name. So it's like when you meet, it's funny when you have such a
awesome.
great
Personal
personal brand.
branding.
It's all personal brand. And when I finally met you, I'm like, I knew who you were. I knew your face because I've seen your photo from your profiles and things like that. And I knew your name. And it was immediately, it's like, oh my gosh, Robert's kind of like a celebrity. Should I talk to him? Should I say
Ah,
hi? But that's awesome. So that
that's
was the first
awesome.
time I gave the talk on pie, my love of pie. And that kind of kicked things off for,
Oh, that was
yeah.
your first one, first
That
talk
was
you gave?
that was
I
my
didn't realize that.
inaugural the story behind the pie, and I handed out note
Wow.
cards that day. Did you win a pie? Do you remember? I think I gave out like 10
I
little mini
I
pies.
I did not win a pie. I was
No.
wasn't one of the fortunate ones, but about five or six people won pies.
Yeah, yeah, it was a fun day. Well, that's awesome. Well, I am so excited to have
Yeah.
you here today. And before we get started in the conversation, I just want to welcome anybody who's joining us, whether you're watching us on Facebook Live, on LinkedIn Live. Welcome. Good morning. Hopefully, you've got your coffee or tea. I've actually had my first cup, Robert, and I'm switched over to water. I'm going to rotate back and forth here. How about you?
Yeah, I need to get something. I'm actually on the West Coast right now.
How are
And
you?
so
Okay, where are you at
yeah,
and what time of day? West Coast of Michigan or West Coast of the US?
West Coast of the US. I'm in Huntington Beach and it's
Wow.
very early here. It's 6:09. And
6:09.
so
Wow.
yeah,
Now, did
6:09
you
a.m.
know when you booked this date that you were going to be out in California? It just so happened
No,
that
of
way?
course not.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course not.
Wow.
I would have probably picked a different time, but
Yeah.
we had some business that came up in the last few days, and so I had to kind of make an emergency trip. But
Okay.
I'm not going to miss an appointment with you having one of these conversations. So here
Yeah.
I am.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have you. And for those people that are joining us today, I just want to remind you guys, leave us a comment. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. What time of day is it there? And we usually have people joining us from Michigan, from the Midwest. I see we've got Juliana who's joining us from Columbus, Ohio. We have other folks, and I'll pop your names up on screen as we're going here. I see Manjit joining us from London, so we are international with our broadcast here this morning. And I'll continue to cycle through those. But what I'd like to do at this point, Robert, is if you could please take a few minutes, describe for us who you are, what's your business all about, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Yeah, I love to. So my name is Robert Courtney. As she mentioned, my company is Robert Courtney and Associates. We are a marketing agency. We specialize in social media storytelling. We usually find ourselves in a position of helping existing brands who have had success with traditional marketing, whether it had been TV, radio, billboards. We help them transition into more current social media strategies like, marketing on Facebook or marketing on Instagram or building a YouTube campaign. Um, and that's what we've done probably for the last 4 years. We also do all of your other kind of usual marketing things like websites and logos and anything that is related to creating a better brand presence online. And so sometimes that involves digital strategy. Other times that involves actual management where our company is managing the company's pages for them. And I would say our expertise is more around Facebook and Instagram strategy,
Mhm.
which obviously, you know, we teach kind of a full circle online strategy across the board to make sure you have presence everywhere. So that includes obviously LinkedIn and some of the other platforms. But we've had probably the most success in on Facebook and Instagram.
Awesome. So that's for probably personally for you where you're the most active then, Facebook and Instagram. Is that fair to say?
That is correct, definitely. Yeah, I built the fashion brand from scratch in 2008, and
Hmm.
then social media was very new, and we were young, starting off, didn't have any money,
Yeah.
so we had to figure out creative ways to get our message out there, and we started in social. That was um, for me, it was where I begin to kind of understand the social media landscape. Begin to understand people's behavior, how they responded to social in comparison to how traditional media worked, and the difference between radio and TV strategy
Hmm.
versus social media strategy, and how there's a very stark difference between the two. And so when I started to see it work, we jumped on it, and we were able to grow this fashion brand from nothing to about 14 states, 70 plus
Wow.
retail stores, all from social media branding and strategy. And so that was done on Facebook primarily, and probably 80% Facebook. And then
Wow.
we trickled over into Instagram and some of the other things. But Facebook was very different back then. There was a lot of things you could do then that you can't do now. And
Hmm.
so we really took advantage of those of that tool specifically.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you've been around the block for a little while on social media, so you really know your way,
Yeah.
and you really, I mean, and when we talked about having you come on the show, I said, talk, pick a topic, anything you want to talk about at all, and you said, hey, let's talk about why building a personal brand has become more important now than ever. So let's
Yeah.
jump into the conversation, Robert. And now I know you have a strong personal brand because, like I said, I knew of you and I knew you. I felt like I knew you before we even met. So then when we finally did meet, it wasn't like, hi, I'm Brenda Meller, like a very awkward thing. It was like, Robert, oh my gosh, we're finally meeting in
Yeah.
person, right? So talk to us
Yeah.
about why is a personal brand important and why now? And why is the timing critical?
Well, when you ask me, I mean, there's so many topics that I like to speak on, but I think when you initially asked the question, and it was around the time when the pandemic was kind of at
Yeah.
its highest point,
Yeah.
and also there was a lot of racial tension and things going on in the world, and I just that topic it's been really on my mind of how important it is, especially during a time when most companies were at a standstill on what they should put out, how they should, convey the message of their business. And so it became more important. Personal branding has always been important to me, but at that particular time, it was like, if your personal brand is strong, if you've been telling your story daily, and people know who you are, and you've painted this authentic picture of who you are, then really what's going on in the world doesn't matter, because your personal brand is so strong. It outweighs any misconceptions or any um, views people may try to create of you, because you've been so consistent with what you put out there. And
Mm-hmm.
so from a business standpoint, I think personal branding became important and something that I started to really push upon my clients when I noticed just the mindset shift happening in how people were responding to the messaging happening online. And the reality is, people no longer buy from companies, they buy from people. And
Mm-hmm.
as a marketer, I'm sure this is, it's not new to you, but from a consumer standpoint, it's like you want to make sure you know the person running the company, or have an idea, and these people's profiles and information, they're easily accessible nowadays, so it's like you have to make sure that the information that's accessible and the information that can be found is painting an accurate picture of who you actually are, you know.
Yeah.
So we shifted, we started to have conversations with CEOs and the people running the companies around making sure the information about them was consistent with the culture that they wanted to present for their companies, and
Mhm.
that those two things align. And you know, we noticed really fast how drastic, how the audience and the online engagement drastically started to grow
Yeah.
as we would showcase more of the brand of the person in charge.
So I have a question. So were these clients you were already working with that you're having these conversations with, or was it companies reaching out to you saying, "Hey, we're struggling with our brand and our message and what to do right now. Can you help us?" Or was it a combination of both?
It was definitely a combination of both.
Okay.
And you know, this is something that's still happening. Like, this is
Yeah.
a reality that's hard for CEOs who have been successful for years. When you say, you know, you've been behind the scenes all this time and you don't, you know, you're private, you don't put information out there, and then you have somebody like me coming around and saying, hey, you know, it might be nice to create some more dialogue around who you are
Mhm.
as a person, and build some strategy around actually putting that out there on social media. If you want to see, if you want to see increases in people's engagement with your company. And so it's definitely been CEOs who never did it before who decided to reach out, and then it was clients who we already had who wanted to help their employees create better personal brands so that they can become ambassadors for the company. And it's
Mhm.
like, you know, a lot of companies now are looking for social media influencers and people who can put them in front of different audiences and widen their audience possibly, while they have employees who, you know, aren't using their social to promote the company, because a lot of
Yeah.
times the company isn't in agreement with them using their social
Yeah.
media for those
So let me
purposes,
ask you a
right?
question
So
on that line too, because and I've heard this question. I'm asking this as a marketer, being a bit, rhetorical. My question to you, but hey, isn't I'm gonna turn to you. Hey, isn't social media only the responsibility of the marketing person, and everybody else should just ignore it?
yeah, yeah, huge misconception. You know, it should be the responsibility of, and this is my opinion,
Yeah.
because other experts might disagree, but I believe it should be the responsibility of the marketing person to create the strategy that incorporates everyone into that plan and either incentivizes them or makes them want to be involved in
Yeah.
whatever the social media presence is or whatever the marketing plan is. And
Mhm.
so I believe if you can get creative enough and you can do things that um, makes your employees and the people on your staff want to be involved in the marketing. It's like, if it's fun and it's
Yeah.
intriguing and engaging and people are getting involved, who doesn't want to be a part of that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's our job, is to create these marketing strategies and campaigns that makes people want to get, you know,
Yeah.
get it, that gets people excited.
Hey, and we've got the floor out, Robert, right now, so we're the experts. We don't have to, we don't have to be worried about challenge by anyone else because we have the floor. People are watching
Right,
us right now. They're watching you.
right,
They're watching me. I mean, this
right.
is what they're looking for. And related to that, I'll ask you a question because I know you're a heavy user of social media. Um, you know, if I have employees of my company, isn't that poor form for my employees to like my company posts or comment on my? I mean, it kind of looks weird, doesn't it? I mean, I'm asking you a question I know the answer to, but I'm curious your point of view on that.
Absolutely not. You know, I think it's a problem if every employee isn't jumping on and saying something or
Yeah.
wanting to be involved. You know, like, I think there's always a huge disconnect between the company and its employees. And
Mhm.
we strive to try to bring those employees in, you know, get them to take pictures while they're at the office, or you know, doing things that represent the company, you know, if that's okay with the company's policies and things like that. And
Mhm.
so, no, absolutely not. For me, I get it. We get excited. We try to, for every company that we work with, we try to get them to create some type of company form or something where we can be in communication with everybody and keep them up to speed on what's happening on the social media front. So it's kind of like a part of we immediately try to incorporate the entire team into the plan and make sure no one feels left out.
That's awesome. So are you, I mean, you work with a team of people, right? You have employees, or you work with contractors. So is your team watching this morning? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here.
Yeah,
Are they
better
watching you this morning? I mean, are they, have they commented yet? Have you seen any of them coming in and comment on this thread yet?
You know what? I'm watching from my phone,
oh, so you
and
can't
it's
see.
yeah, and so the way it's set up, I can't actually see the
You can
comment
only
thread,
see
but
it probably when I pull. Can you see the comments like right now when I pull them
I
up on
can see.
screen? Okay.
Yes,
So
and
you
when you
guys,
put them on the screen, I can definitely see it.
okay, so if you guys work for Robert, if you're one of Robert's employees, you better leave a comment because your boss is going to get mad at you.
Yep. You're
Until
getting a message or a call right away.
I feel like you're a collaborative leader, though, Robert. I feel like you're not the kind of person who's going to come down on people and like yell at them for not doing what you want them to do. I feel like you might say, hey, I noticed you weren't online, were you up? Or were you working? Were you working on a busy project? I was hoping to have you on. I could see you taking a more collaborative approach opposed to like cornering them and pointing with your finger and saying, why weren't you on supporting me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I consider everyone that works for me partners. And I challenge them to do things like their partner. And so it's definitely more of a collaborative approach. And I try to empower them to build their personal brands and to showcase their skills and their talents, and just try to bring them up. And then, constructive criticism, I want them to give it to me so that when I give it to them, it doesn't feel a certain type of way. And so,
it's respectful.
there's
it's like a two-way dialogue, right? You can say things to them, they can say things. You're going to learn from them, they're going to learn from you, right?
1000%.
Yeah. So going back to kind of the topic here, why building a personal brand has become important more than ever. I mean, it was important pre-COVID, but why has it changed? I mean, why is it different now? Why is it even more important than ever?
Well, social media is a branding tool. And we've seen the stark difference between selling like on TV or selling on radio versus selling on social media. And usually when you're selling on social media, it doesn't work, right? So most marketers preach inspiring, entertaining, or educating with the content that they put out there. And we take it a step further by saying when that content is inspiring, educating, or entertaining, and it applies to a specific person, then the content really wins and the content really does well. And so we try to tell stories, document journeys, and really showcase individuals' personalities. And when you can sprinkle some of that emotion on the top of covering those three other things, and it's a true win for that particular.
What were those words again? Because I'm going to throw those up on screen. You said
inspire, entertain, or inform or educate.
Okay, educate, inspire, inform, educate, entertain. Right? What's the fourth one? I'm going to put those up on screen here. And kind of along those lines, I heard you saying video. So some folks watching today, I know are probably in this category. I'm talking about, Robert, like I can't be on video. I don't know how to do video. I hate seeing myself on camera, or, even worse, they want to be on video, but they want to be fully scripted. And they sound like the used car salesman. Come on out now and get a deal at our lot. And they're reading it scripted, and you're like, oh, I know you're passionate about your used cars. Why is it not coming out? So what advice do you have? I mean, you do a lot of video, if I'm not mistaken, right? And what advice do you have for people about getting started with video or telling their story on video?
Yeah, be yourself. I think that's the power of personal branding is that it's you. You can get on and try to be the used car salesman and try to read from a script and try to talk about your business or your company, or you could just talk about yourself, the things you love. If it's pie, if it's basketball, if it's your family,
What's your thing? Do you have a
whatever.
thing? I mean, pie is my thing. What's your thing that you talk about that's personal, that's not work, Robert?
Yeah, I have a lot of things, but I would say
Mhm.
basketball is probably my thing. Like
Oh,
if I wasn't doing social media, I would probably be a basketball coach.
oh, cool.
On Hey, look, one of my employees
Was,
chiming in right
was this
there.
Ashley?
Well, no, Ashley's my
Or
wife,
oh, okay.
and
Hey,
then
Ashley. Thanks for joining.
Catherine is my project manager.
Awesome. Hey, Catherine.
Yeah.
Was she the first person so far from the team? Because she'll get like the gold star, right, for being on this
You
morning.
know, she's the first person that commented, so she's definitely on my good list. Thank
Performance
you,
reviews are
Catherine, for
coming up,
saving
guys.
me.
Oh, that's awesome.
um, yes, no, so basketball is definitely my thing outside of I talk a lot about my family and I try to lead by example. So my social media presence and the reason that you probably felt like you know me is because I'm very vulnerable across my channels. And when I
Mhm.
say vulnerable, is I'm vulnerable about the things that I choose to be vulnerable about. And so that's something that people get confused because I think a lot of times people think, you know, I don't want to share my personal life or, I'm a private person. You can be very strategic with what you put out there and what you want people to know. And I usually say, pick two things,
Yeah.
and if you're really brave, pick three things, but just pick two things like pie and basketball. And we don't have to
You
talk
can
about
take
nothing, but
both.
you
You
can
can
get
take pie
really
and
deep.
basketball, right?
Exactly. But you can get really deep about just those two things and appear
Mhm.
like you're giving your entire life when in actuality you're giving 5% or 10% of who you are. But people really love to know about your personality and your character traits, and it gives you the attention that you need to then give them the information that you want them to know about as far as your business or your company or things like that.
So you were talking about, many of your clients are you're working with large organizations. You're talking to CEOs. I mean, I would imagine CEOs, many of them want to appear a certain way, and I'm narrowing my arms
Yes.
as I'm saying this because you know where I'm getting, right? And they
Yep.
want everything to be scripted, and they don't want to show too much of their personal life, and they're trying to create a certain persona online. And I
Yep.
come from, a background of academia, and some of our faculty didn't want to appear, too lighthearted on social media because they wanted their students to take them seriously. And it's the same with
Right.
probably executive leaders, would you say, Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I feel it's very important, especially when you're talking about a CEO of a major corporation. It's very
Mhm.
important to be strategic. So like with the CEOs we work with, we create content calendars. Sometimes they're 90-day content calendars. And in that calendar, we um we we storyboard exactly what it is that we're going to focus on and we're going to actually put content out about. So that could be based around character traits of that CEO that he wants to put out there, right? And
Mhm.
then building either video or photo or blog content or whatever the content is that he feels most comfortable with, building it around that. Sometimes you have very charismatic CEOs. Sometimes you have the ones that don't want to be in front of the camera and are shy and nervous. And so you have to hone in on what their true skills are,
Yeah.
and then let them speak to the things they're comfortable about. They might not want to share their family, but
Mhm.
they might hunt on weekends. So like, okay, let's talk about hunting and just
Yeah.
mix that in as, one aspect of your personality that people might not get to see. And then let's talk about the business and the things that you want people to know about the brand.
So do you find you're talking about CEOs, do you find it's different with male CEOs versus female CEOs? Are they more willing to share information, women versus men, or are you finding the same concerns because of the level of the organization and the amount of visibility they have?
Yeah, no, women are by far more careful about how their information is presented, in my experience. And so usually it's more about the presentation, so
Sure.
that's, the photos and the pictures and,
Yeah.
women are way like I had to surround myself with women on my team because you guys are so detail oriented in the things that we don't necessarily pay attention to. And you guys pick up on it like right away. And so that was a learning curve for me. Honestly, it was like one of the biggest learning curves because, as my marketing mind says, we can make people agree or work with anything we put out there as long as the copy and the verbiage and the information is compelling, but it has to feel good on both sides. Like you need to feel happy with what the picture is as the client, and then the person reading it needs to feel good and feel like it's a proper reflection of what the picture or the video is saying. So that's definitely a two-way street, and something that I have gotten so much better with over the last 5-6 years. But I feel like there's definitely a difference between men and women.
Okay, that's good. And what I heard you say too is, surrounding yourself with people different than you because they're going to have different points of view. And whether it's
absolutely
male or female or different forms of diversity on your team, making sure everybody around you doesn't look like you, because there's a lot of similarities, that we find. And when you can find differences, it actually helps to challenge us and to grow. So that's a really great thing. So I'm going to go back to this person. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say is probably one of my biggest skills is delegating and knowing what my strengths and weaknesses are. And so I'm very, very okay with bringing in people who have different strengths than me. And that's probably been one of the things that's helped us grow the most.
That's awesome. So the question I was going to ask is related to personal brand. So let's assume someone watching this video today and they say, Robert, I don't have a personal brand. What would you say to them?
You better start creating it now. I think what people don't realize is everybody has a personal brand. It's just, are you using your personal brand in a way where it's benefiting your company if you have a company, right? So the power in a personal brand is when you realize like your personal brand can impact your bottom line of your company in a positive way, I think then that's when it kicks in on how important it is. And so it's really just in the influence. And when you realize that people are buying from people, then it's how do I use my personal brand in a way that supports my company and it supports my ability to get people's attention and to grow my audience. Like we kind of move by an acronym called ATTACC. It's ATACC. It's audience, ATACC. It's audience, trust, attention, content, and consistency. And we feel like that acronym supersedes social media. It supersedes the tool of the time. It's something that we can kind of keep in mind because those 5 pieces are integral to market and success. So you have to grow an audience. You have to develop trust. You find it so much easier if you have a personal brand to do those first two important things.
I missed a word in there. What did I miss? You said ATACC. What did I miss? I have audience, trust, content, consistency. What did I miss?
Attention.
I was not paying attention to the attention. You
have to have people's attention for them to hear anything you're saying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So I'm gonna put it back up on screen again with the attention dropped in, and I'm navigating through StreamYard, which is a bit of I'm trying to navigate.
I'm impressed.
Driving.
I use StreamYard myself. I'm impressed at how fast your like production skills and you're being a host at the same time.
I got a whole team. Awesome. I've got 10 people around. I've got lighting and makeup, and it's like literally me. It's like, here's my lighting kit. It's nothing going on in here. It's just me. But it's challenging.
Me, I get it.
You want to keep the guest engaged. I'm trying to keep. There's a third audience, which is the audience, the live audience. And I love these takeaways, though, the acronyms ATTACC, where we can actually, I feel like they're little snackable chunks that we can actually put things into action, or they help us to check our processes and identify where there are opportunities for improvement. And I'm hearing from you. I mean, I'm learning so much about you and your business, and I'm sure, others are feeling the same way. What I'd like to do, Robert, if it's okay, is let's move us into, audience questions. And I saw a few already. I'm gonna
Absolutely.
go back to one of the earlier questions. So
My
just
favorite
remind,
part.
yeah, put Robert on the spot. He's in the hot seat. Let's challenge him,
Oh,
right?
please, please, please put me in the hot seat.
So here's a question from Mindy, and Mindy asks, how does one transition into a job in social media? Are there any certifications or online training?
So, fortunate for you, Mindy, that no one cares about certifications or training or online learning anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's the power of personal branding. I'm being facetious, but really your success is the most important thing. And I would say if this is something that really interests you, along with doing online trainings and finding certifications, if that's something you choose to do to get a better understanding, I would start off with helping a friend or someone to create some case studies and to create some stories of success for yourself, and test your theories, test your strategies, see if it works or if it doesn't work. And social media changes so fast to where your certifications and the things that you learn will probably be irrelevant, a few hours after you actually go through it. The best way is to be in the trenches, actually doing it. Find the platforms that you feel you want to put all your energy into, which is probably the platforms that you currently use the most, is usually the starting point for most social media managers. And then I would start from there. And even if it's developing your own personal brand through your own social media channels, use that experience as your blueprint for then applying those strategies to the businesses that you help.
Yeah, that's a good point. And related to that, I mean, I don't know about you, Robert, but when I first started getting involved, I mean, I heard you say kind of throw yourself into the channel and just learn and immerse yourself. I also reach out to people I see who are kind of a step above where I'm at. So when I just
Yes,
got started on LinkedIn, I mean, I was on there for a while, but like a couple of years ago, I created this LinkedIn rock stars list, and I started identifying people who are really
it's so
rocking it.
awesome.
And then I follow them and I look at their profile, and I look at, I mean, when I do this list now, I even read through their profiles, I look at their activity, I notice, and I try to analyze, why did this post work? Why did that post not work? And I learned from them. And the other thing is, I mean, YouTube. I go onto YouTube, and like when I was first starting to ramp up my Instagram for Meller marketing, I went onto YouTube. How do I grow my Instagram following? And I learned
Yes,
techniques. And anytime I came across somebody who had like double or triple the number of followers I have, I would say, can you give me one tip? And just the people will give you like one tip. That's it. I'm like, I'm not going to say, Robert, give me an hour's worth of your time to pick your brain, and learn from you. But if I
right,
might say, give me one tip, they'll give you one tip, right? And you can start taking
absolutely.
from there. So, Mindy, I think it's a great question. Actually, if you're comfortable doing so, post this question on your LinkedIn, and then post the same question on your Facebook, and see what responses you get. What do you think about that approach, Robert?
I love it. I mean, I'm very. I wake up my daily routine is that I get up about 6 o'clock in the morning, sometimes a little later, and I'll spend an hour or more just in just engulfing myself in what other people are doing. So I agree with that 100%. And it's really, when I say other people, meaning other social media strategists and people who I feel like they do it well and trying to get ideas and creative approaches and hacks and things that I can personally learn and use for our clients. And so I agree with that for sure.
That's awesome. So another question, and I'm hoping StreamYard, if you guys are watching or listening, I'm hoping you guys correct this thing with the comments. Sometimes I feel like we get long comments like this, and then I've had a couple shows where we're kind of like Wilson from Home Improvement. We have to like sit up, so we're, what I mean? I wish they would like
Right.
reduce the font size a little bit or keep it a bit lower. But Stu
Yeah.
has a really great comment here. I think there's a question wrapped into this as well. Some people mix
Yeah,
up
for
their
sure.
personal brand and company brand. What are your thoughts there, Robert? How are they same and how are they different? And then take us through kind of if you're self-employed, because that's me. I'm a solopreneur, right? And then there's other
Yes.
people that are part of like General Motors, right? And a large
Right.
Fortune 500 team. So what's the difference between your personal brand and your company brand, and how do those complement each other, or are they two separate bubbles?
Yeah, and so if you're a solopreneur or running like a one man show, I believe that there's not a big difference between the two. I feel like in presentation, in terms of people being able to find your company and all of the branding elements and social media pages and things like that that you need online for your company, those should definitely exist. It should be a very stark difference, and people should be able to go there and learn about your company and what your company does. But in terms of how you manage yourself and the things that you talk about, I feel like there isn't much difference. Like if people buy into you and the things that you believe and the things that you talk about, then they will at the very least give your company a shot and be open to hearing how your company can help them and what your company can do. But I agree with her point. Like your personal brand, regardless of the scenario, should definitely support your company and be a pipeline or the reason that people now knows your company actually exists.
So related to that, I mean, there's a lot of talk lately about Facebook, and people are getting fed up with Facebook because we have so many people pushing their points of view, personal, political, wear a mask, not wear a mask, support the president, not support the president. And
Right.
I mean, I'm one of, like, I have a closed friend list. You can't see me on Facebook unless I accept your friend request, and I have a close circle of people I allow into that. But I'm also kind of like I don't think there's a bubble that you live in where people can say, okay, I like her personally, but there's a point of
Right.
view politically that I don't agree with, so I'm not going to support her business. I mean, what are your thoughts there on how much do you share? And then where's the threshold where, I've shared too much, or I need to stand up for this and say something, whether it's Black Lives Matter, or diversity, or, other issues that people may not share your same point of view. I mean, where do you draw the line on sharing that information on social media, participating in the conversation, or opting out? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, I did a private personal branding class for some handpicked people last week. And that was the first part of our conversation because I think that goes beyond marketing, and I think it goes kind of beyond it's like almost like a whole different conversation topic for me because it's like super important. But I feel like there's a if you decide not to talk about it, and you have a company and you decide not to talk about it, then you run the risk of people coming to their own conclusions about where you stand. And that's okay too, but you have to just know that people will, especially if you're in the public eye and you have a public company and people follow you, they follow your brand. Then if you decide not to talk about it, then people are going to probably decide for you what you believe. And so I'm more in the mindset of controlling my narrative
Yeah.
and making sure that my position is known, even if it's not a conversation I have often. It's definitely something where I at least want to state my position and how I feel to some degree. And then if people want to have the conversation or engage in the conversation, I'll have it. But it's not something that I constantly put out there. And so like that's how I've watched people's behavior, and that's how I think it kind of plays out.
I love that point of view. And I think I've even like reshared some of your Instagram posts along that same lines. Like, not saying something is saying something,
Yeah.
not participating in the conversation and letting people know your support or your point of view is saying the exact opposite. It's not saying you're neutral. It's just saying you're not sharing, in a way. So related to
Yeah.
that question, and this question, I'm sure this could be this could be a whole other interview. How is storytelling different across different social media platforms? Is copy the same or change to reflect that platform? I think we can probably go a whole other interview about this, but any highlights
Yeah.
to touch on there that you want to kind of bring out?
Yeah, I mean, every platform is different, and the meat of the content can be the same, but the way you say it and the way you present it probably needs to change based on the platform that you on. If the, is the platform younger? Is it older? Is it more about business? Is it more, young, fresh, trendy? All of those things play into how you present the content. But I don't think the substance of what you're trying to share should change too much. You just have to learn, how do I say it, on this platform versus how I say it on the next platform.
Yeah. Okay. I completely agree with that. You got to kind of think of the mood and the sentiment of the platform, and there's some consistency in it, but then you got to kind of shift it a bit. We're seeing so many questions coming in right now. I'm going to try to get to maybe
Awesome.
2 to 3 more before we wrap here today. So
Love it.
you're talking about, when it impacts your bottom line. What tools are you using? And I'm guessing I'm reading into this person's question. What tools are you using as it relates to social media to evaluate impact? Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, you know, it's hard to measure. It's hard to measure the impact, or
Mm-hmm.
it used to be hard to measure. There are very complicated tools that actually can measure so many analytics outside of what Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, the analytics they actually give you. But I would say, for us, the easiest way is to immediately build in your own sort of metrics or ways to measure your success. So an easy example of that is running some type of funnel, or some type of campaign around pushing people to a landing page that collects email or phone number. Very simple. Or it could be a webinar, or it could be, something that people need so that they can leave you a piece of information. And
Mm-hmm.
so just in that, you can very quickly generate leads, generate activity that will directly impact your bottom line. But in terms of growing your audience, that's why that attack acronym becomes so important for us. We measure success through that acronym. So are we growing the audience? Yeah, thank you for putting that up there. Are we growing the audience? Like, that's the first thing. If your audience is growing, then your sphere of influence is growing. Are we growing our trust? Are people engaging, asking questions, wanting to know more, sending us messages? All these things are signs that our trust and influence in the audience or community that we have is starting to grow. And then from that point, now it's about, converting some of those people into clients or customers.
Yeah, love it. Great, great. And like I said, I feel like a lot of these questions could be like their own separate interview, Robert, and we could probably schedule other interviews with you in the
Absolutely.
future if you're coming back. Because
Oh
so
yeah, I would
many,
love to.
so many great nuggets here. Craig, hey, thanks for watching us. Nice to see you, Craig. And Kimberly has a question. Tips for personal branding during search. I'm not sure if you're saying search for personal work opportunities. So it looks like job search is what Kimberly is referring to here. Thoughts there, Robert?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if I was a person looking for a company to work for,
Mhm.
like, I would be going so hard on my personal brand. Like, you think about two candidates. One has a strong, you have the exact same educational background. You went to school for 5 years. You've had 10 years of experience in a certain industry. But this one candidate, she's showcasing all of her skills, all of her knowledge on her actual platforms for the recruiter or the hiring manager or whoever it is to see, where the other person is quiet, reserved, private, and don't really use social media to its fullest extent, or
Right.
have information online where a person can find it. What candidate is more, has a better chance of landing that job?
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, like, there's no better scenario where your personal brand becomes very important.
I love it. And Kimberly, definitely, I see you're posting on LinkedIn, Kimberly. So you're already kind of doing this right now by posting on LinkedIn, by being active on LinkedIn. You're making yourself more visible. So keep up the good work there. I'm gonna go on Kimberly's timeline after we're done, and I'll put a comment on her post to help boost her engagement up a little bit.
Connecting with Brenda is huge for your personal brand. Great job.
So this is a question, a lot of conversations right now about Black Lives Matter. What are the recommendations for people who say they think Black Lives Matter, but clearly don't in how their company behaves? So what are your thoughts there, Robert? And whether I'm guessing it's for the person that's asking the question, is this in what you're seeing online, or maybe you're an employee of the company and you're seeing a disconnect? At any rate, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier in the conversation. It's not just about building a personal brand, it's about building an authentic personal brand, and one that really speaks to your values and your principles, and then making sure that the things that you do are in line with what you say you do. And obviously, if you have a company, the company culture needs to reflect the things that you talk about. And if they don't, you can expect in 2020 and beyond that people will call you out on it, because you have to be who you say you are when it comes to social, and when it comes to building brands in today's marketing space. So for people that do that, they can expect for people to put them on blast, and for people to make sure that it's known that their actions do not support their social media messaging.
Do you help companies with that? Are you getting approached by companies who are saying, hey, we do support the movement, but we're not feeling like our audience is understanding that, or there's a disconnect, like we really do, but where are we missing out? Is that something you're helping companies with, or that you can help companies with?
Absolutely. And I'll tell you our biggest the thing that we feel has worked the best for our clients who felt like, they needed to do more, they needed to kind of change the narrative for what was happening, was being like as transparent as possible if it doesn't exist in their companies, or if the culture isn't what it should be. And so, we went through copy and content that basically laid out what the plan would be moving forward, and how the company planned to change their behavior and their culture, and the actual action items that they would follow following that post, so that they can be held accountable for themselves and their teams, but then also so that the people reading and the people online can kind of see what their steps will be moving forward, and so they can hold them accountable as well.
So it kind of gives them a little bit of a roadmap and a process that they can follow through, it sounds like.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, we're reaching the top of the hour. Didn't I tell you this was going to go fast? And I feel like we could talk easily another hour, right?
I could talk with you all day about this stuff.
Yeah, it's great, like getting together with like somebody else with a marketing career and experiences too, because it's like we can talk shop, and we can get a little bit deeper into subjects, because I think it's so fascinating. And like you said, what you learn today, in social media is going to be different 6 months from now, and traditional media is no longer traditional. Actually, traditional media is more like social media now, and being online, and content marketing and video marketing. And that's why I think, what you're doing, your work, Robert, is so important. And I'm pulling up your LinkedIn profile up on screen right now for folks. I want to encourage you guys to go on Robert's profile. Robert, do you accept invitations from new connections? What's your kind of
I accept invitations. I mean, you're my LinkedIn expert. And so if you guys haven't taken Brenda's workshops and the stuff that she put out, like you're definitely missing out. So if you don't and you haven't, make sure you go do that. So I need to give you that quick little shout out. But I welcome and accept, just about everybody. Love to engage and talk common practices, and I'll jump in the inbox and have quick conversations with people all the time on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out and connect with me for sure.
Awesome. And one of the things I taught Robert and all of you who are watching, this is your tip. When you go on Robert's profile, when you click on that connect button, it's going to say add a note or send now. Like always, always, always add a note. And if I were you, I would say, hey, Robert, or hi, Robert, I saw you on LinkedIn Live today. You were amazing. Here's something I learned from you. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Like, tell him something, give him something that shows that you actually are being intentional about your invitation. And I got to say, I'm so proud because, Robert, when you attended my workshop, I know your profile is much different. And one of the
Yeah.
things that's so much different, you guys, is this headline. I don't remember what it was before. It was probably like
It
CEO at
wasn't
Robert
that.
Collins and Associates or something. It was like job
Yep.
title at company. But look at this. Businesses hire me to organize their brand for optimal marketing execution, entrepreneur, speaker, social media. Wow. That is an amazing headline. And it does so
It's
well. Go
you
ahead.
can take full credit for that, Brenda. That would not be there if it wasn't for
Good.
your workshop. So thank you.
No, I'm simply the coach to help guide people to bringing out who they are, and I think you've done a really good job of being conversational in your headlines, speaking to that ideal target audience. So I can't say enough about Robert. You guys check out his LinkedIn profile. I'm just going to pop your website banner back up on the screen here real quick. And I had your website on the screen earlier here, Robert, but is there any resources or anything you want to kind of point people to if they are navigating to your website, anything they might want to subscribe to, or blogs, videos, things like that you want to point out as we're on here?
Yeah, I would love for everyone to go subscribe to my YouTube channel. We started 3 months ago. As soon as the pandemic hit, we also started a live conversation platform slash podcast, and we had so many incredible guests, almost 80 guests that we had conversations with from the time the pandemic hit up until now. And so tons of information, tons of nuggets, content that people can easily apply into their daily strategies and things for growing their businesses and their reach. And so I would love for people to go subscribe to that. It's you can find it easily by going to robertcourtneyxpodcast.com.
Courtney
Or you
X?
can just
Say that again.
Robert Courtney X, the letter X, podcast.com.
Okay, let me try to pull it up because I'm going to show it to you guys up on screen. Oh, look at that. It's like a redirect that takes you right into that. Whoop, I need to pause my video. So I'm going to put that in the banner here, robertcourtneyx.com, was it? Or podcast? Podcast. And that's actually like a friendly redirect, right? Because when I clicked on that, it actually takes me directly to, let me share the page.
.com.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, it takes you right to YouTube.
Takes you right to YouTube, which makes it easy because it's tricky sometimes to get the YouTube channels.
And so that's a little personal branding hack. So if you're building a personal brand and you want to showcase yourself and you don't really have the knowledge or the resources to build a website, you can just get a domain and redirect them to a website that already exists.
That's awesome. So you just got one more subscriber. You went from 743 to 744 with me. So you got me on there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I have a LinkedIn question for you. Do we have time?
Sure.
Okay, real quick. So LinkedIn is being taken over by spam and bots and like all these people who claim to be experts in everything under the sun.
Right.
Is there a way to like Gmail, how you can force like spam to go to like a certain inbox or like
no, but here's what I would say. It's kind of like I have a garden in my backyard and weeds pop up in my garden. And if I ignore the weeds, they keep growing. And if I pull the weeds out, it stops them from growing. It doesn't stop
get rid of those weeds
from popping up. So what you got to do is when you get a spam request, you got to report and block the person. Reporting will flag their account to LinkedIn. And if enough people report that person, or even if just one person reports it and they look into it and they're like, yeah, this is obviously a bot, or they're trying to get money from you or whatever, they're misleading or whatever, LinkedIn will say, yep, it's probably a fake account. They're going to wipe them out. And when you block them, it prevents that person from seeing and interacting with your profile and you from seeing and interacting with their profile. Not like you're going to go out there, but as your LinkedIn following grows, you'll start to see people coming in, and I'll even have somebody in the LinkedIn lives. They'll start coming into my LinkedIn live and adding comments saying, check out my Fiverr channel, or I'll do logo design for you, or donate money to my uncle in another country, like whatever kind of thing. But it's like weeding the garden. You gotta you have to take the weeds out. It doesn't prevent them, but it's a maintenance thing. And I would say as the network continues to grow, we're going to see more of it. report in black. It just takes a couple seconds, and don't put any more energy into it other than that. I think it's not worth personally setting up a separate Gmail and putting all these hurdles in your account for the good people, because that's probably
Right.
99.9% of the people out there, right? And it's the
Right.
0.01% that you just need to weed the garden on. So
No, for sure. And I wasn't sure. Like I know Facebook went through a similar thing where everything went to your main inbox, and
yeah,
then it got so bad to where then they created like a filter that took and
yeah,
kind of like flagged certain spam accounts. So maybe
yeah.
LinkedIn will eventually
I think
create
you're
something
right.
like that. But I was wondering if it was there and I just didn't know. So
And
thank you
there's
for
some
that.
other features you can adjust on your account to help with that too. We can continue a conversation offline about that. But Robert, this
Sounds
has been
good.
great. So any final comments you want to give, anything you're working on right now, you want to give shout outs to, or people who you want to say hi to before we wrap up here today?
Thanks for Catherine and Ashley. I don't know where the rest of my team is, but I'll be getting a hold of you. I'm just playing. No, you know what? Building your personal brand is super important. Hopefully, I've said some things that make people think about it differently. And follow me on Instagram. On Instagram is probably where I share my most impactful, most informative content at the moment. So follow me on LinkedIn, but definitely follow me on Instagram, Robert Courtney Collins, and please connect. Like I would love to talk to you.
Awesome. And I'm going to try to drop that into the comments real quick here so you guys can look at the Instagram. I'm not going to pull it up on screen because we're going to wrap this up here, but I am going to put
Cool.
his Instagram URL just so you can look that up and give him a follow
Thank
on
you.
Instagram.
You're so quick with that stuff.
I'm trying to like keep up with things, and I'm trying to make sure. There's a couple more people that commented in on here, and if there were any of your team members, I'm trying to help them out.
Yeah, no. And I'll go jump in the comments when we get finished and make sure I reply to anybody that
Yeah.
said anything that we didn't get to. So
Oh, that's awesome. And guys, thank you so much for leaving your comments. And as we wrap here today, I just want to remind you of two things. First, after you're done watching the video, please click to share the video with your network. There were so many great tips in here that Robert shared today on personal branding, marketing, videos, so many great things that were out here. And then also, just like Tiffany, even if you're just watching the tail end of the video here, please still leave your comments, whether you're watching this in the playback on Facebook or the playback on LinkedIn. I'm going to share the links with Robert later on today, so he'll continue to see your conversations. If you have questions, you can reach out to him, but still leave your comments because it's a way to build your personal brand, build up visibility for yourself. And as a thank you to Robert, I would love it if you guys could please leave a comment before you leave the video today and just share, did you think this discussion was helpful? If there was a point that you really enjoyed, leave it in the comments so Robert can hear that feedback. I love positive feedback. I'm a big believer in inspiration and positivity, so I'd love it if you guys could do that. And then my final ask for you is to please go to mellermarketing.com/subscribe and make sure you join my VIP email list where I send out LinkedIn strategy tips and upcoming notifications about LinkedIn live videos. And that's all I got for you guys here today. Robert, so you're at the beginning of your day here. Now it's what, 7 a.m.? So what's next on the
yeah.
agenda for you?
So for on the clothing side of my business that my partner runs, we have a huge deal that I'm super like our second biggest deal ever
Awesome.
that we're officially signing on today. So
Yeah.
we'll get out in the streets in like the next hour or so. But
Okay.
before you go, I
Yeah.
need 30 seconds for you to give me like a quick drop. Can you do that for my Instagram?
Sure. Yeah. You want to
All right,
end the
ready?
broadcast here, or are we gonna? Oh, you're gonna go picture, or what are we gonna do here?
Yeah, no, I'm putting you on my story on Instagram. So I
Let's
just
do it. I'm
need
gonna
you to say
grab
who
my
you
phone out
are.
too. This is my reminder. When people
Okay.
pull out their phone, I'm like, I pull my phone out too. Here we go.
Awesome. All right, ready? Here we go. Hey, I'm here with Brenda Meller. We just did this awesome interview, and I need you guys to go follow her on LinkedIn right now. She is so good, and I took her workshop. I got so much from it, and we just had a great conversation. Thank you so much, Brenda.
That's awesome. Thanks, Robert. Hey, we're like triple live right now. We're like LinkedIn Live,
See?
Facebook Live, Instagram on Robert's page.
That's what happened when you get social media marketers together. Like we got to leverage all the content.
It was awesome. All right, Robert, I look forward to seeing you again at the future, whether it's, Motor City Connect with Terry Bean and crew or others. I'm looking forward to catching up with you, but stay safe and be careful out there in California. I know there's a lot going around in different parts of the US right now, but have a safe trip
for sure.
home and have a good time while you're out there too.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys, have a great day. Stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you on LinkedIn Live again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.